I'm Greg Johnston, CEO of Carl Data Solutions, an industrial Internet of Things company that provides big data solutions for monitoring critical infrastructure. Carl Data offers machine learning and predictive analytics features through our cloud-based applications to deliver key asset-saving operational insights from massive amounts of data. Carl Data trades on the CSE symbol CRL and the pink symbol CDTAF. For more details on Carl Data, please visit carlsolutions.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is investigative reporter Spencer Fernando. You can find his articles at SpencerFernando.com. Welcome back to the show, Spencer.
Good to be here.
Drama in the UK. The Brexit agreement that they'd come up with turned down by MPs. What is that going to do to Britain and international relations with, say, countries like Canada?
Yeah, well, I think, first of all, it's the thing in the UK is that no one seems to have a deal that can get passed. I mean, Theresa May, her deal couldn't get through, but nobody else seems to have a deal that's going to get a majority either. So I guess she's going to have to go talk to the UK, probably try to get, or talk to the EU, probably try to get a few token concessions and then bring another deal and try to get another vote. But I don't know. I think it seems like it's pretty chaotic now. At some point they may just have to say, we're out, no deal, and just deal with it.
Now, I saw her speech, and the opposition was shouting her down at every opportunity they could get. Do they have any suggested plans that could get a deal through? And can you just walk away cold?
Yeah, I mean, they could just walk away. I mean, I guess they're worried it'll be chaos, but I think people voted to leave. I think they should just leave and deal with it. Otherwise, they're going to be paying billions over the next 2 years anyway. The opposition doesn't really have any coherent deal either. I mean, Corbyn is saying all different types of things to different people. So that's kind of the issue. You can criticize Theresa May's deal, but no one else seems to have a deal that could get many more votes either.
Now, does this mean that Canada has to negotiate a separate trade deal with England? And I've also heard there's a good possibility the UK itself may break up over this.
Yeah, I don't know if the UK is going to break up. I mean, it's definitely contributing to some tensions with Northern Ireland. That's kind of the big, most contentious issues in May's plan, the backstop thing. But, Canada, yeah, we'll have to negotiate, I would say, with the UK if we wanted a trade deal with them, because we're still assuming they're going to be out of the EU pretty soon. So we'd have to negotiate one-on-one.
Does Canada have any particular strengths, or are we we seem to be the nation now to be picked on internationally?
Seems like it. I wrote about that yesterday, saying I think a big problem is the combination of Trudeau, I think, who's seen as kind of a naive and weak person on the world stage, the lack of our military strength. I mean, we don't defend ourselves, have no real ability to defend ourselves, and we have a leader who's seen as weak, so countries don't really fear anything. They can really do or say whatever they want to us, and there's no real consequence for them.
This young Arab woman who received refugee status in Canada, can we make relations with Saudi Arabia any worse, and would it matter?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think we should have good relations with Saudi Arabia anyway. At this point, they're totally against everything we believe in as Canadians. We should stop selling them weapons. We should ban their oil. And quite frankly, I think we really shouldn't care what Saudi Arabia thinks.
Does Canada have to make more of an effort, though, to get Western Canadian oil to the east?
For sure. I mean, Energy East, we need more pipelines. The federal government does have the authority to get that done, and they can declare projects in the national interest. They can get things moving quickly. But Trudeau, I guess, doesn't want to lose votes in Quebec, even though polls show Quebecers say they actually want more Canadian oil. They want more oil from Western Canada. That's really the political class in Quebec that is blocking that. So I think there actually would be a lot of support for pipelines. But Trudeau's trying to have it both ways. He's trying to make it look like he supports the energy industry without really actually doing anything to support them. But he also wants to make it look like he's open to the left on those issues. And it seems like he's really just turning everybody against him.
The $1.5 billion government aid program for the energy industry Was that something that could actually be used, or is it just a goodwill gesture that means nothing practically?
Yeah, well, people, in the province have pointed out that the government in many ways sold it as a package to help move towards renewable energy. So in a way, it's almost trying to incentivize the decline of the oil industry in Alberta. So it's not what people are asking for. They just want the government to get out of the way. They want restrictions removed. They want pipelines built. So I think that's not at all what they're asking for, and it's not going to make a big difference because the underlying problem still hasn't been solved.
Is just the word pipeline a flashpoint in Canada? We have protesters against a natural gas pipeline that elected Aboriginal leaders have already approved.
It seems like it. I think a big part is that a lot of foreign groups, foreign-funded groups, many of them funded actually by billionaires in the U.S. and rich people around the world, they have an interest in keeping Canada from fully developing our resources. They have an interest in keeping us dependent on the States as our only market of oil, which keeps the price down. So we effectively subsidize economic growth in the U.S. while losing out on billions for ourselves. And they've done a good job, unfortunately, of turning a lot of Canadians against their own energy industry. I mean, if you look at, the majority still support the energy industry, but the loudest ones tend to be the ones who are against it. So you're starting to see more protests the other way around. Some of the groups protesting in favor of pipelines. So it seems like there's some more passion on the pro-pipeline side. But it takes a lot of effort to overcome the massive amount of money that's flowed into Canada in an effort to turn people against the energy industry.
I've seen lots of publicity about the anti-pipeline protesters. I haven't seen virtually any about the truck convoy going to Ottawa. Did it get there? Did it accomplish anything?
Well, actually, there were two convoys. One of them has been canceled. I think the other one's still on. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there's been pro-pipeline protests throughout the country, whether it's some of the things happening in the West or even groups in the East that are talking about the importance of supporting Canadian oil. But you don't see much coverage of that. What you do see is coverage of, there could be 20 protesters against the pipeline and it's going to get tons of press. So again, the media feeds into it. It's a big problem. You don't see any other country really having this much trouble developing their own resources for the benefit of their own country. But Canada really seems like that's where all the money's flowed into to try to crush the industry. So it's a big problem.
We'll have more with Spencer Fernando right after this.
Arctic Star Exploration, operated by a team of proven mine finders, is focused on diamonds in Finland and the Northwest Territories of Canada. Work programs are underway in Finland and Canada. Arctic Star trades on the TSX Venture Exchange symbol ADD, on Frankfurt symbol 82A1, and the OTCQB symbol ASDZF. Please visit our website arcticstar.ca or call us at 604-689-1799.
Cypress Development Corp's flagship lithium project is located just east of Albemarle's Silver Peak mine in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. A 12-hole exploration drill program for lithium-enriched claystone on Cypress's 100% controlled properties is now underway. Cypress Development Corp trades on the TSX Venture Exchange symbol CYP, the Pink's CYDVF, and on Frankfurt's C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Spencer Fernando. Spencer, are Canadians waking up to what the UN Migration Pact signed by Prime Minister Trudeau means for Canada?
Well, I think some people. The Conservatives are against it. The People's Party's against it. So definitely the more conservative side of the political spectrum is against it. I think it's, Trudeau is in favor of it. The NDP is most likely in favor of it. I think really the swing group of voters is going to be people who may have been NDP supporters in the past, kind of in the labor movement, working Canadians who really actually have the most to lose in a lot of ways by, open borders, because you have way more people coming into the country beyond the growth of the economy. So what you end up having is more and more workers for the same amount of jobs or just slightly more jobs, and that reduces the bargaining power of each individual worker. So it's interesting, you see the same people who talk about raising the minimum wage also favor massive immigration increases. And the problem with that is it makes it tougher for each worker to have bargaining power, and it brings wages down. So I think that's a discussion that needs to be had. Right now it's kind of a left-right split on a lot of these issues, and with the Liberals having a majority, they can really force do whatever they want. And we'll see how much of an issue it is in the next election. Scheer may want to bring it up, but it all depends how he frames it.
Is the Trudeau plan to bring in 1 million more immigrants over the next 3 years?
Yeah, if you look at the increases, the numbers were already pretty high under Harper. I mean, we had about 250,000 people coming in every year per capita. That's among the highest in the world, if not the highest in the world. And Trudeau increased that to 300. It's going to be, I think, 360,000 coming in every year now. So that's a massive increase. So almost more than 1 million, really. And when you look at all the polls, Canadians don't support that. Every poll shows overwhelming majority of Canadians have said keep immigration levels either where they are or lower them. And less than 10% want higher levels. Unfortunately, Trudeau's listening to that 10% and increasing it. So again, that's going to have to be an election issue too. It's, the elites don't want people talking about immigration, but Canadians aren't happy with the way things are going.
Does George Soros influence Prime Minister Trudeau?
Well, I mean, Trudeau's met with him, and I think if you look at, Soros, he's really quite open about what he wants to do. He favors open border policies. He's campaigned against Brexit. He's talked about trying to stop Brexit. He wants more, I think, UN influence over countries. Definitely not in favor of economic nationalism or anything like that. And he's quite open. I mean, he uses his money to try to achieve his political goals. Unfortunately, those goals are not really good for people in most countries. So, Soros is a very liberal left-wing person. Trudeau is as well. And, I think all the people who, support open borders and support reducing the power of individual nations I think Soros is pushing for that. Trudeau is pushing for that. And they definitely seem to be in alignment on a lot of their views.
Does Trudeau want the CRTC to censor the internet in Canada?
It seems like that's the way the government's moving. I think under the rubric of either political correctness or fighting what they would call hate speech, they're going to keep cracking down. It's what they do is they just move slowly, right? So first they say, oh, this is hate speech, and then they slowly expand what hate speech is considered, and they try to push companies to ban it. And what you end up is over time, there's a smaller and smaller group of things that people can talk about. And they do it piecemeal, right? It's never all at once because people would rebel against that. But if you do it bit by bit, a lot of people don't notice. And it seems like that's where the government's slowly moving. They've talked about bringing back, the Conservatives had removed certain hate speech provisions because of concerns about restricting free speech. The Liberals have talked about bringing that back on the internet. So, yeah, I think it's something we all have to be vigilant about and take a close look at. Because it might always seem nice at the time, right? Someone will say something horrible that 99% of people would think is unacceptable. And then the government will say, see, this is why we need to crack down on speech on the internet. But it's always going to be the next thing, right? Oh, okay, we have to crack down on this and this and this, and then you'll start seeing people who really aren't extreme will say, well, now they're cracking down on me, right? And by the time we get to that point, it's too late.
Is it legal or illegal to propagandize Canadians in Canada?
Well, there are restrictions on foreign money, for sure. They're supposed to be. What ends up happening, though, is that foreign groups have Canadian subsidiaries. I mean, Tides is a good example, right? Tides Canada. So if the money is going through a Canadian subsidiary of a foreign organization, then, they've spent that money in elections. So certainly there's been money from foreign countries that's entered Canada and then been used as propaganda against the Conservatives in the last federal election. And it seems like those loopholes are still there. So that's going to be a big problem. Now, of course, one person's propaganda is another person's truth. So that's the other issue, right? And that's why the government should always err on the side of free speech as opposed to restricting speech. Because if you have the government deciding what is and isn't propaganda, what is and isn't acceptable, they're obviously going to try to skew things in their favor.
Is Greenpeace a for-profit propaganda organization?
I think some people would look at it that way. They would say they're trying to make the world a better place, but I think what ends up happening again is, I think if you look in Canada, it's a disproportionate amount of attention that groups like Greenpeace and many of these other groups put on Canada, and it really makes no sense. We have the best some of the best regulations in the world, the best environmental protections in the world. we get all the attention. Where's all the attention about the Saudi Arabian oil industry or Russia's gas industry or even in the States? So there's definitely something going on beyond just people being concerned about pipelines or being concerned about the environment. Something else is going on in terms of all the attention that Canada gets.
Is Canada a sanctuary country?
Well, yeah, at this point we are. I mean, it's the equivalent of a sanctuary city, but on a whole country scale. I mean, you enter Canada legally. You get to stay and you get government benefits. So, again, people aren't dumb. Word spreads pretty quickly that if you want to get into a country legally and stay there and benefit from it, then head to Canada. And the Trudeau government has shown no willingness to do anything about that.
Are yellow vest protests growing in Canada?
It seems like it. I guess we'll see whether it keeps growing. But definitely it started off small, and there's more and more protests, it seems. If you look online, there's still a lot of protests happening. So, again, I think it's some of the issues are the same as in France. Some of the issues are different, but it's the same thing, I think, in many countries, feeling that the elites are really skewing the system in their favor and against, working people. And that's certainly the case in Canada. I mean, workers and families are being hit with the full 100% carbon tax. But some of the biggest companies in the country are getting 90% exemptions. So, that's a system where regular people get taxed and the people with political connections and with lots of wealth get exemptions for themselves. And that's not how democracy is supposed to work. And I think people should be credited with protesting against that.
Do the People's Party of Canada and the Conservative Party need to unite to end Justin Trudeau's reign as Prime Minister?
Well, it's too soon to tell. Most polls have the People's Party around 1%. So if they stay around 1 or 2%, that might not make a big difference. In some ridings it would, but it might not make a big difference. If they, start to get to 3, 4, 5%, then you're getting to a point where they could be taking lots of votes from the Conservatives. But again, I mean, democracy is a kind of competitive system, so the Conservatives have to go out there and get votes. The People's Party has to compete for votes. The NDP and Liberals have to compete. And if anything, if the People's Party starts getting more support, you might start seeing things similar to what's happened on the left in the past, where on the right, you'd have websites and people looking at polls in different regions and saying, okay, if you want to beat Trudeau, this is the best party to vote for here. Maybe in Quebec, the People's Party will have more support than the Conservatives in some areas, so people would want to vote for them to stop the Liberals. But it's too soon to tell right now. We'd have to see polls showing the People's Party getting more than 1 or 2%.
Under a united right, who would be a stronger leader, Maxime Bernier or Andrew Scheer?
That's a tough question. I think in terms of pure conservatism, certainly Maxime Bernier, he definitely sticks more to conservative convictions. His issue would be perhaps similar to what Stéphane Dion faced, is Scheer is definitely a better English speaker than Maxime Bernier is. Stéphane Dion struggled in English-speaking Canada, in part because of that. Whether it's fair or not, probably not. I mean, Maxime Bernier has a good message in a lot of ways, but delivering that message is important. So whether he could connect with a larger electorate in terms of English-speaking skills would be an issue for him. And for Scheer, again, Scheer's not generating much excitement either. So there would be a trade-off. Scheer would be better at speaking English. Bernier would be better at generating passion from the conservative base. But at this point, I think it would probably have to be somebody else if the parties merge, because a lot of People's Party supporters, obviously not fans of Scheer. A lot of conservatives not fans of Bernier anymore. They view him as splitting the party. So I think it would have to be someone differently entirely if the parties got back together, because there's too much bad blood between the two.
If Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the NDP, doesn't win his by-election battle in Burnaby South, is he out before the next election?
I think so. I mean, he's done a pretty bad job. I don't know if you saw that clip of him. I think I was talking to Evan Solomon, and he was asked about the situation with China. He had no idea what was going on. He said, what are you talking about? And Solomon had to explain the situation to him. So, I mean, if Jagmeet Singh's not really paying attention to what's happening in the news, then that's not good for him. And if he loses, I mean, his party's doing bad in the polls. They're not raising much money. And most of the MPs, they say, don't really like him. So if he loses, then, I mean, he has no reason to stay. I mean, what would he say? He has no track record of success. Things are going badly. And if he can't even win that riding, then I think he'd be gone. Probably someone like Charlie Angus would take over, a second place finisher. He'd probably do a much better job.
We'll have more with Spencer Fernando right after this.
I'm Douglas Mason, CEO of Naturally Splendid, symbol NSP on the TSX Venture Exchange. Naturally Splendid is a biotechnology and consumer products company focused on the global cannabis and health markets. Naturally Splendid is expanding distribution in this rapidly growing market with products currently in Canada, the USA, South Korea, Germany, and Australia. To view our comprehensive company presentation and for more information, please visit our website at naturallysplendid.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Spencer Fernando. Spencer, has Canada become the international punching bag? Saudi Arabia doesn't like us. China now executing or planning to execute Canadian citizens. What can we do, especially with the situation with China, because they're such an important trading partner?
Yeah, I think Canada's definitely not doing too well on the world stage. I think part of it is our attitude is it's too outwardly focused. I think with both Saudi Arabia and China, we have to accept that sometimes standing up for your country means you take an economic hit. We shouldn't be selling weapons to Saudi Arabia. We shouldn't be buying Saudi oil. And I think we should try to somewhat decouple ourselves from the Chinese economy. Of course, we can have some trade with them, but, we can't let the fact that we trade with China let us be treated like garbage. And we need to build up our own country. We don't even have free trade between Canadian provinces, so we're leaving a lot of wealth on the table within our own country. And we should be focused on that instead of focused outwardly. Again, as I said before, we don't really have much of a military. We don't have a tough leader. So other countries have no real reason to respect us. And I think the problem is, I think there seems to be a school of thought among Canadian elites that, if we're just nice to other countries and we say the right thing and we work with the United Nations, then everyone will love us. But the world is still a pretty ruthless and brutal place, and military power and national wealth and toughness, that's still what governs how respected and how influential countries are, and Canada's really doing bad on all those areas. We're not developing our own resources enough. We basically have no military, and our leaders are weak and just try to suck up to everybody and hope they'll be nice to us, and that's obviously not working.
Spencer, what's the latest with the Canadian Armed Forces captain who had to pay for her own artificial leg?
The last thing I saw was the GoFundMe had gotten, I think, about 3/4 of the way there. So it looks like they're definitely raising money for her. Canadians are having to raise it. The government said they were going to look into it, but unless I missed something, haven't seen an update of them saying that they're going to pay for it. So I think they probably just they've tabled it. They're not really going to do anything. But thankfully, a lot of Canadians have stepped up and raised a lot of money. So I think it's unfortunate that it came to that, but at least a lot of people are doing the right thing.
Governments say they support our veterans, but in reality, they've left billions on the shelf that were promised for them.
Yeah, it's strange. It seems to be the only place the government ever underspends their allotted budget every year is when it comes to helping veterans. And it just really is part of a whole disregard for the whole military in general. We're sending people. Canada's deployed troops to Mali and then sent troops to Eastern Europe to confront Russia. But we're not buying good equipment for people. So we send people with obsolete tanks, obsolete planes, and say, okay, if there's a war, then you're going to be on the front lines against Russia, or you're going to be in a civil war in Mali, which I think if you're going to send people to other countries, you have to give them the best equipment. And until we have that, then we shouldn't be sending people anywhere.
Perhaps we should send them to Britain to make sure everything stays peaceful with Brexit.
Yeah, I think Britain will figure it out. I think it's probably going to either come to another referendum, which I think would be a disgrace, but some people are talking about that. They already had a referendum, and to go back to it again would be crazy. But I think most likely it's either a no-deal Brexit or just some version of Theresa May's deal will pass in another vote when they realize they're not going to get anything much better. But I think the best thing for them would just be declare just no deal and just get out.
Declare independence.
Yeah, that's what the whole thing was about. They wanted to take back control. well, if they wanted to take back control, why is Theresa May having to travel to Europe all the time and beg for more concessions? She's put Europe in the position of power over the UK. Just declare no deal and then get out.
Spencer, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Good talking to you.
My guest has been investigative reporter Spencer Fernando. You can find his articles at spencerfernando.com. If you have any questions for Spencer or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.